Step into the shadows of New Orleans' darkest history, La Laurie Mansion, where luxury meets horror and the spirits of the past still linger. Dare to uncover the chilling secrets of the mansion's walls, where tortured souls whisper and the echoes of a cruel past never fade. Are you ready? The Queen Mary, once a luxurious ocean liner, now stands as a towering relic, permanently docked in Long Beach, California. Rising above the docks, its massive hull casts a shadow across the water, a monument to a time long past. For decades, this grand ship was heralded as the epitome of elegance and opulence, known for transporting the rich and famous across the Atlantic in style. But beneath its polished steel and luxurious accommodations lies a history that continues to send chills down the spines of anyone daring enough to visit. The Queen Mary is a ship with stories, stories of both triumph and tragedy, and some say stories that have never truly ended. In the early 20th century, the Queen Mary was the epitome of luxury. She was a symbol of modern engineering and the height of sophistication. But after decades of service during the golden age of ocean travel, the ship's true fate would shift in the late stages of World War II. The Queen Mary was requisitioned by the British government to serve as a troop transport ship, a role that would drastically alter her destiny. As the war raged on, the once glamorous liner was stripped of its luxurious fittings, her gleaming decks now crammed with soldiers. She became known as the Gray Ghost for her drab gray paint and ability to outrun enemy submarines during her secretive voyages. It was during these years of military service that tragedy and death began to define the Queen Mary's legacy. The ship's role in the war meant that life on board was far from glamorous, and death became a constant companion. The cramped conditions and the stress of wartime travel took their toll on both the crew and passengers. And when the war ended and the Queen Mary was finally returned to civilian service, the ghostly echoes of those tumultuous years would follow her. As the decades passed, the Queen Mary would eventually be retired from active service, but her legacy, one woven with sorrow, loss, and mystery, was far from over. Today, the Queen Mary stands as a hotel and museum docked in Long Beach, California, where visitors come to experience her history and explore her decks. But what they don't often expect to encounter are the ghostly visitors that still linger in her shadow, the haunted history of the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary's reputation as a haunted ship dates back to the 1960s, when the first reports of unexplained phenomena began to surface. It was then that stories started circulating about strange noises, ghostly apparitions, and inexplicable events occurring on board. The Queen Mary, it seemed, had never truly shed the ghosts of her past. One of the most infamous stories centers on room B340, a place where the supernatural seems to have made its mark. The room has become notorious for its disturbing occurrences, including the unsettling feeling of being watched, the sound of footsteps in the middle of the night, and the inexplicable movement of objects. Many guests who have stayed in B340 report waking up to find their beds shaking or hear strange knocking noises coming from the walls. Some claim to have seen the figure of a man in the room who disappears as quickly as he appears. Staff members also share their eerie encounters in this room. One former maid recalled feeling an icy chill when cleaning the room. And on one occasion, she felt something grab her arm, only to turn around and find no one there. The air in B340 is said to carry an oppressive, cold energy, and there are often reports of the lights flickering on and off, seemingly without reason. But it's not just room B340 that harbors the spirits of the Queen Mary. The ship itself, with its vast corridors and labyrinthine rooms, seems to be alive with restless energy. One of the most common reports from visitors and crew alike is the sound of footsteps echoing through the hallways at night. These footsteps are said to be the sound of former passengers and crew members, their spirits still roaming the decks, searching for a way to leave. In addition to the disembodied footsteps, there have been sightings of shadowy figures appearing in various parts of the ship. These figures are often described as tall and thin, moving quickly from one area to the next, and are typically seen from the corner of one's eye, disappearing before a full view can be made. In the ship's engine room, where many tragic accidents occurred during its days as a wartime vessel, These shadows are said to be the ghosts of the workers who perished in the harsh conditions of the engine room, the restless souls of the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary's connection to the afterlife isn't limited to just a few ghostly figures. The ship has a long history of strange occurrences that seem to transcend ordinary explanation. One particularly chilling encounter took place in the ship's boiler room, a dark and isolated area that once housed the enormous engines responsible for propelling the Queen Mary across the seas. It was in this very area that a tragic accident occurred in the 1960s, when two crew members were crushed to death by a bulkhead door that slammed shut unexpectedly. Their deaths, along with the violence of the accident, left behind an undeniable energy. And it's here that visitors and staff have reported hearing faint cries for help, as well as the sound of rattling chains. One of the most tragic stories associated with the Queen Mary involves the death of a young woman in the ship's swimming pool, which has been the site of numerous ghostly sightings. The story goes that a young woman, whose name remains a mystery, drowned in the pool during the ship's time as a luxury liner. Visitors to the pool today claim to feel an overwhelming sense of sadness, and some report hearing the sound of water splashing in the middle of the night, despite the pool being locked and closed for the evening. In addition, several guests have seen the figure of a woman in a bathing suit walking around the pool before vanishing into the mist. Another popular ghostly encounter takes place in the first-class dining room, where the spirits of former passengers are said to still enjoy their meals. One staff member recalled the unsettling experience of walking into the dining room late at night, only to see the plates and silverware rattling on the table as if being moved by unseen hands. He quickly exited the room, only to hear the sound of soft laughter behind him as he walked down the hall. Despite the fact that no one else was there, the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. The Queen Mary today, a paranormal hotspot. Though the Queen Mary's days as a luxury liner are long behind her, she remains a paranormal hotspot, drawing ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and curious visitors from around the world. The ship's history, combined with its eerie atmosphere, has earned it a place among the most haunted locations in the United States. But it's not just the ghostly sightings and unexplained phenomena that make the Queen Mary a place of fascination. It's the way the spirits seem to remain attached to the ship, their energies so deeply intertwined with its very essence that they cannot move on. For many, a visit to the Queen Mary is a chance to step back in time, to experience the grandeur of a bygone era. But for others, it is a reminder that some stories, some souls, never truly leave. The ghosts of the Queen Mary continue to haunt the ship's decks, their presence felt by all who enter. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, there is something undeniably eerie about this historic vessel, a haunting reminder that history is often written not just in books, but in the very air we breathe, the floors we walk on, and the spirits that linger in the shadows. So if you ever find yourself in Long Beach, California, perhaps you'll be brave enough to visit the Queen Mary. But be warned, once you step aboard, you may never truly leave, because sometimes the past doesn't just stay in the past. It lives on, haunting the spaces it once inhabited, waiting to make itself known to those willing to listen. And the Queen Mary has plenty of stories to tell, if you're ready to hear them. The Queen Mary, once a luxurious ocean liner, now stands as a towering relic, permanently docked in Long Beach, California. Rising above the docks, its massive hull casts a shadow across the water, a monument to a time long past. For decades, this grand ship was heralded as the epitome of elegance and opulence, known for transporting the rich and famous across the Atlantic in style. But beneath its polished steel and luxurious accommodations lies a history that continues to send chills down the spines of anyone daring enough to visit. The Queen Mary is a ship with stories, stories of both triumph and tragedy, and some say stories that have never truly ended. In the early 20th century, the Queen Mary was the epitome of luxury. She was a symbol of modern engineering and the height of sophistication. But after decades of service during the golden age of ocean travel, the ship's true fate would shift in the late stages of World War II. The Queen Mary was requisitioned by the British government to serve as a troop transport ship, a role that would drastically alter her destiny. As the war raged on, the once glamorous liner was stripped of its luxurious fittings, her gleaming decks now crammed with soldiers. She became known as the Gray Ghost for her drab gray paint and ability to outrun enemy submarines during her secretive voyages. It was during these years of military service that tragedy and death began to define the Queen Mary's legacy. The ship's role in the war meant that life on board was far from glamorous, and death became a constant companion. The cramped conditions and the stress of wartime travel took their toll on both the crew and passengers. And when the war ended and the Queen Mary was finally returned to civilian service, the ghostly echoes of those tumultuous years would follow her. As the decades passed, the Queen Mary would eventually be retired from active service, but her legacy, one woven with sorrow, loss, and mystery, was far from over. Today, the Queen Mary stands as a hotel and museum docked in Long Beach, California, where visitors come to experience her history and explore her decks. But what they don't often expect to encounter are the ghostly visitors that still linger in her shadow, the haunted history of the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary's reputation as a haunted ship dates back to the 1960s, when the first reports of unexplained phenomena began to surface. It was then that stories started circulating about strange noises, ghostly apparitions, and inexplicable events occurring on board. The Queen Mary, it seemed, had never truly shed the ghosts of her past. One of the most infamous stories centers on room B-340, a place where the supernatural seems to have made its mark. The room has become notorious for its disturbing occurrences, including the unsettling feeling of being watched, the sound of footsteps in the middle of the night, and the inexplicable movement of objects. Many guests who have stayed in B-340 report waking up to find their beds shaking or hear strange knocking noises coming from the walls. Some claim to have seen the figure of a man in the room who disappears as quickly as he appears. Staff members also share their eerie encounters in this room. One former maid recalled feeling an icy chill when cleaning the room. And on one occasion, she felt something grab her arm, only to turn around and find no one there. The air in B-340 is said to carry an oppressive, cold energy, and there are often reports of the lights flickering on and off, seemingly without reason. But it's not just room B-340 that harbors the spirits of the Queen Mary. The ship itself, with its vast corridors and labyrinthine rooms, seems to be alive with restless energy. One of the most common reports from visitors and crew alike is the sound of footsteps echoing through the hallways at night. These footsteps are said to be the sound of former passengers and crew members, their spirits still roaming the decks, searching for a way to leave. In addition to the disembodied footsteps, there have been sightings of shadowy figures appearing in various parts of the ship. These figures are often described as tall and thin, moving quickly from one area to the next, and are typically seen from the corner of one's eye, disappearing before a full view can be made. In the ship's engine room, where many tragic accidents occurred during its days as a wartime vessel, these shadows are said to be the ghosts of the workers who perished in the harsh conditions of the engine room, the restless souls of the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary's connection to the afterlife isn't limited to just a few ghostly figures. The ship has a long history of strange occurrences that seem to transcend ordinary explanation. One particularly chilling encounter took place in the ship's boiler room, a dark and isolated area that once housed the enormous engines responsible for propelling the Queen Mary across the seas. It was in this very area that a tragic accident occurred in the 1960s, when two crew members were crushed to death by a bulkhead door that slammed shut unexpectedly. Their deaths, along with the violence of the accident, left behind an undeniable energy. And it's here that visitors and staff have reported hearing faint cries for help, as well as the sound of rattling chains. One of the most tragic stories associated with the Queen Mary involves the death of a young woman in the ship's swimming pool, which has been the site of numerous ghostly sightings. The story goes that a young woman, whose name remains a mystery, drowned in the pool during the ship's time as a luxury liner. Visitors to the pool today claim to feel an overwhelming sense of sadness, and some report hearing the sound of water splashing in the middle of the night, despite the pool being locked and closed for the evening. In addition, several guests have seen the figure of a woman in a bathing suit walking around the pool before vanishing into the mist. Another popular ghostly encounter takes place in the first-class dining room, where the spirits of former passengers are said to still enjoy their meals. One staff member recalled the unsettling experience of walking into the dining room late at night, only to see the plates and silverware rattling on the table as if being moved by unseen hands. He quickly exited the room, only to hear the sound of soft laughter behind him as he walked down the hall. Despite the fact that no one else was there, the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. The Queen Mary today, a paranormal hotspot. Though the Queen Mary's days as a luxury liner are long behind her, she remains a paranormal hotspot, drawing ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and curious visitors from around the world. The ship's history, combined with its eerie atmosphere, has earned it a place among the most haunted locations in the United States. But it's not just the ghostly sightings and unexplained phenomena that make the Queen Mary a place of fascination. It's the way the spirits seem to remain attached to the ship, their energies so deeply intertwined with its very essence that they cannot move on. For many, a visit to the Queen Mary is a chance to step back in time, to experience the grandeur of a bygone era. But for others, it is a reminder that some stories, some souls, never truly leave. The ghosts of the Queen Mary continue to haunt the ship's decks, their presence felt by all who enter. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, there is something undeniably eerie about this historic vessel, a haunting reminder that history is often written not just in books, but in the very air we breathe, the floors we walk on, and the spirits that linger in the shadows. So if you ever find yourself in Long Beach, California, perhaps you'll be brave enough to visit the Queen Mary. But be warned, once you step aboard, you may never truly leave, because sometimes the past doesn't just stay in the past. It lives on, haunting the spaces it once inhabited, waiting to make itself known to those willing to listen. And the Queen Mary has plenty of stories to tell, if you're ready to hear them. Nestled at the foot of the Rocky Mountains in Estes Park, Colorado, stands the grand and eerie Stanley Hotel. Its majestic white exterior, towering over the town, beckons visitors to experience both its historic charm and the unsettling atmosphere that has captivated countless souls. Though often praised for its stunning architecture and picturesque surroundings, the hotel is perhaps best known for its role in inspiring one of the most chilling tales in modern horror literature, Stephen King's The Shining. But the stories of ghostly encounters at the Stanley Hotel don't end with King's fictional creation. They begin with the hotel itself and its own long and storied history. Built in 1909 by Freeland Stanley, a wealthy inventor and businessman, the Stanley Hotel was designed to be a luxurious resort for wealthy guests visiting the Rocky Mountains. With 142 rooms, the hotel was intended to offer the pinnacle of comfort and sophistication, a place where the wealthy could escape to relax in the midst of pristine wilderness. Yet, as history would reveal, the hotel's beauty masked a far more sinister side, one that would eventually reveal itself through ghostly encounters, strange phenomena, and unexplained events. From the moment the Stanley Hotel opened its doors, it began to cultivate a reputation for being more than just a vacation retreat. It became a place where the past lingered, refusing to fade away. The haunting of Room 217. Arguably the most infamous haunted location within the Stanley Hotel is Room 217, a large, elegantly furnished suite that seems to attract paranormal activity like no other. The ghostly presence that haunts this room is often said to be that of Elizabeth Wilson, a housekeeper who worked at the hotel in its early days. According to the story, one night in 1911, while Elizabeth was making up the room, a gas leak caused an explosion that sent her tumbling across the floor. Though she survived the incident, she was left with severe injuries and spent several months recovering. It is said that Elizabeth's spirit never truly left the hotel, and she now haunts Room 217, making her presence known to guests who stay there. Visitors have reported hearing the sound of soft footsteps in the room when they are alone, as if someone is walking around or making the bed. Others have claimed that the lights in the room flicker on and off, and some guests have even found their luggage mysteriously unpacked or rearranged. The most common experience, however, is the sensation of being watched, often accompanied by a cold draft or the faint sound of a woman humming. Many have tried to capture evidence of Elizabeth's ghost, with some claiming to have seen her apparition. One guest reported seeing a woman in old-fashioned clothing standing at the foot of the bed, only for the figure to disappear when they blinked. Despite the spooky occurrences, room 217 remains one of the hotel's most sought-after rooms, with guests eager to experience the famous haunting firsthand, the spirit of Stephen King. While room 217 is widely regarded as the heart of the hotel's hauntings, there are other places within the Stanley Hotel that have also earned their place in ghostly lore. One of the most famous stories comes from none other than Stephen King himself, who visited the Stanley Hotel in 1974. King and his wife, Tabitha, stayed in room 217 on the last night of their visit, and it was here that King claims he had a terrifying, vivid dream of his son being chased through the hallways by an unsettling, malevolent presence. This experience inspired King's now legendary novel, The Shining, and many of the eerie occurrences in the book were based on the sensations he felt during his stay. Though King's visit is well known, many believe that his presence may have also called upon the spirits that already resided within the hotel. Some guests report feeling the same sense of foreboding that King described, with eerie experiences that mirror the events of The Shining. One of the most common phenomena reported by guests is the faint sound of piano music emanating from the hotel's grand lobby, despite the fact that no one is playing. The sound of a child's laughter or the echo of footsteps running down the empty hallways is often heard late at night, and the elevator doors are said to open and close on their own, as though someone or something is still using them. The Stanley Hotel's influence on the world of horror extends far beyond King's novel, however. The hotel has become a popular destination for paranormal investigators and enthusiasts who often capture inexplicable sounds and sights while exploring the property. Some have even reported seeing shadowy figures walking across the hotel's vast hallways, disappearing into thin air just before being caught in a camera lens. The haunted grounds of the Stanley Hotel. While the interior of the Stanley Hotel is undeniably haunted, the surrounding grounds have their own eerie energy. Visitors who wander the beautiful gardens and walkways often report strange feelings of being followed or observed. The concert hall, for example, is said to be haunted by the spirit of a former musician who once performed at the hotel. Guests have heard the sound of a piano playing in the hall when no one is around, and sometimes they even report seeing a figure in old-fashioned attire standing near the stage, as if still waiting for his cue to perform. But it's not just music that fills the air around the hotel. The hallways leading from the main building to the employee quarters have been the site of numerous paranormal occurrences. Some guests have reported seeing the figure of a man dressed in an old-fashioned suit, walking briskly down the hall, only to disappear when they turn their heads. Others have felt the sensation of being watched, accompanied by the eerie feeling that the air has grown thick with an unnatural chill. Perhaps the most unsettling location on the grounds is the basement, which has become infamous for its eerie energy. Paranormal investigators who have visited the Stanley Hotel claim that the basement is one of the most active spots on the property. Many report hearing unexplained noises, such as chains dragging or distant voices murmuring in the dark. Some have even claimed to have felt something cold and invisible brush past them while exploring the space. The Stanley Hotel today. The Stanley Hotel stands as a place where the past and the supernatural collide. Though it remains a popular tourist destination and has expanded into a full-fledged resort, it's the ghostly energy of the hotel that continues to draw the most attention. Guests who visit are often hoping for a glimpse of the paranormal activity that has become so closely associated with the hotel's long history. For many, the stories of its ghosts are just as captivating as the stunning mountain views. Despite the eerie tales and ghostly encounters, the Stanley Hotel remains a beautiful and luxurious place to stay. It offers a chance to experience the magic of a historic hotel that has become intertwined with both the supernatural and the literary world. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's something undeniably chilling about being in a place that has seen so much history, and perhaps continues to carry the weight of that history in the form of lingering spirits. For those daring enough to stay the night, the Stanley Hotel promises more than just a place to sleep. It offers a chance to step into a story, one where the past is very much alive, and the line between reality and the supernatural is far from clear. So the next time you find yourself in Estes Park, make sure to visit the Stanley Hotel. But remember, if you listen closely, you might just hear the echoes of the past, still lingering in the halls, waiting for you to experience their story. In the hills of Louisville, Kentucky, stands a chilling testament to a time long past, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Once a state-of-the-art medical facility for tuberculosis patients in the early 20th century, Waverly Hills is now one of the most infamous haunted locations in the United States. Its sprawling complex, perched on a hill overlooking the city, has witnessed countless deaths, suffering, and mystery, all of which have left a deep, unsettling mark on its walls. The sanatorium was built in 1926 with the intention of providing treatment for the growing number of tuberculosis patients during a time when the disease was ravaging the country. The facility was designed to house over 400 patients and was equipped with the latest medical technology, but tuberculosis proved to be a ruthless foe. As the number of patients grew, so did the number of deaths, and the hospital quickly became synonymous with tragedy. Though medical advancements eventually brought an end to tuberculosis as a major threat, the history of Waverly Hills has remained inextricably linked to death. And now, decades after its abandonment, it has become a hub of paranormal activity, drawing ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and those curious about the supernatural from around the world. But for those who dare to venture into the darkened hallways of Waverly Hills, the question remains, what spirits still linger in the shadows of this haunted institution? The infamous death chute. Perhaps one of the most unnerving features of Waverly Hills is its death chute, a long, narrow passageway that was once used to transport the bodies of deceased patients out of the sanatorium without disturbing the other residents. It's been described as a secretive, eerie tunnel, an access route for the dead during the height of the tuberculosis epidemic, when death became a near-daily occurrence at the facility. The death chute, often referred to as the body chute, stretches over 500 feet long and is a key part of the building's dark history. The sanatorium was located on a hill, and the death chute was cleverly built to allow bodies to be slid down to a waiting truck below, avoiding the need for staff to carry the deceased through the main areas where patients might be struggling with their own illness. The design was meant to keep the living from seeing the constant flow of death, but it inadvertently turned the tunnel into a symbol of the suffering that once haunted Waverly Hills. Even now, the death chute remains a focal point for the paranormal activity that plagues the sanatorium. Visitors who venture down into the chute report strange sensations. Some say they feel an overwhelming sense of dread as they make their way down the narrow passage, while others claim to feel a sudden drop in temperature. Those who dare to stand still within the chute often report hearing soft whispers or muffled footsteps echoing in the distance. Some have even claimed to see shadowy figures darting around the corners, only to vanish when looked at directly. The death chute serves as a chilling reminder of the many lives lost at Waverly Hills, and for those who have spent time in its darkened corridors. It is clear that the spirits of those patients have never truly left, the ghost of the shadow people. While the death chute is certainly one of the most eerie aspects of Waverly Hills, it is far from the only location where paranormal activity has been reported. The entire sanatorium seems to be steeped in an air of unease, and many believe that the restless souls of the patients still wander its halls, unable to move on. One of the most common ghostly encounters at Waverly Hills involves the sighting of shadow people. These dark, indistinct figures are often seen darting in and out of rooms or at the end of long hallways. They are typically reported as fleeting glimpses, often only visible out of the corner of one's eye, but their presence is unmistakable. Shadow people are often described as tall, humanoid figures, but with no discernible features or details. they seem to move quickly. And many have reported a feeling of being watched when they appear. For those who have spent extended time in the sanatorium, the shadow people are not the only unsettling entities that seem to make their presence known. Some visitors report hearing the sound of footsteps echoing through the empty halls, even when they are alone in the building. Others claim to have felt the sensation of being touched or brushed against by something unseen. Staff members, too, share eerie accounts of cold spots that appear out of nowhere, as though a spirit is passing by. The shadow people of Waverly Hills are just one manifestation of the darker energies that seem to haunt the space, but they are perhaps the most persistent. Whether these figures are the spirits of former patients, staff members, or something else entirely remains a mystery, but their presence only adds to the air of mystery and fear that lingers over the sanatorium. The haunting of Room 502. Among the most infamous locations within Waverly Hills is Room 502, a patient room that is the center of numerous chilling stories and ghostly encounters. It is said that the room was the site of multiple tragic deaths, both of patients and, according to some accounts, of staff members. The haunting in Room 502 is often described as one of the most violent and unsettling at Waverly Hills. The stories surrounding Room 502 revolve around two primary figures: a nurse who reportedly hanged herself in the room in the 1920s and a patient who died in the room shortly afterward. The nurse's tragic suicide is believed to have been the result of depression and despair, but many claim that her spirit still lingers in the room, desperately seeking solace. Over the years, numerous guests and paranormal investigators have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread when entering Room 502. Some claim to have seen the nurse's ghostly figure hanging from the ceiling in the corner of the room. Others report hearing the sound of weeping or sobbing, only to find the room empty when they investigate further. Perhaps even more unsettling are the accounts of those who feel a presence close behind them or experience a sudden drop in temperature, making it feel as though someone or something is standing right next to them. Room 502 is notorious among paranormal investigators and has been the site of many recorded occurrences, including the sound of objects moving when no one is around and mysterious shadows crossing the walls, even when the room is empty. Waverly Hills, a place of haunting legacy. Waverly Hills Sanatorium is a place of harrowing history, and its legacy of suffering, death, and tragedy continues to echo throughout the halls. For decades, the spirits of those who lived and died there have lingered, their stories continuing to unfold through the chilling experiences of those brave enough to enter. Today, Waverly Hills remains open for tours, attracting visitors from around the world who are drawn not only by its macabre history, but also by the supernatural occurrences that are still believed to haunt its walls. The sanatorium's isolated location and dilapidated state only enhance its eerie allure, making it one of the most visited and studied haunted sites in the U.S., whether you believe in the supernatural or not. The stories surrounding Waverly Hills cannot be easily dismissed. The screams of the past, the lingering spirits, and the overwhelming sense of sadness that still hangs in the air all contribute to its haunting atmosphere. For those brave enough to explore its halls, Waverly Hills offers more than just a glimpse into a dark chapter of medical history. It offers an encounter with the past that refuses to be forgotten. In the quiet town of Weston, West Virginia, one of the most unsettling landmarks in the U.S., stands as a chilling reminder of the dark history of mental health care in America, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Built in 1858, this massive Gothic structure was designed to house and treat those deemed mentally ill. At the time, it was considered one of the most advanced institutions for the treatment of the mentally ill. But what followed was a series of horrors that would forever haunt the halls of the asylum. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, often referred to as Weston State Hospital, was originally intended to provide a peaceful and therapeutic environment for those suffering from mental disorders. However, as the decades wore on, the asylum became infamous for overcrowding, mistreatment, and the brutal conditions in which patients were forced to live. Over the years, the facility housed thousands of patients, many of whom were subjected to outdated and cruel treatments, such as lobotomies, electroshock therapy, and even restraints. The hospital, which once had a capacity of around 400 patients, quickly became overwhelmed, and the care provided became increasingly inhumane. In 1994, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum closed its doors after more than a century of operation. But the legacy of the suffering that occurred within its walls lives on. Visitors and paranormal investigators who have ventured into the abandoned building have reported disturbing accounts of ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and a pervasive sense of dread. Many believe that the spirits of the patients who suffered and died in the asylum still haunt the halls to this day, the ghost of the lobotomized patient. Among the most well-known spirits that are said to haunt the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is the ghost of a lobotomized patient. This patient, a young woman who was subjected to one of the asylum's most horrific treatments, is often seen wandering the halls of the building, her face expressionless and her body seemingly disjointed from the rest of her. Visitors who have spent time in the asylum report seeing her ghostly figure, often near the old surgical wing where lobotomies were performed. One particularly eerie account comes from a former staff member who recalls hearing the sound of heavy footsteps echoing in the hallway outside the surgical area late one night. When he went to investigate, he found nothing except for a cold, unsettling draft that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. Some say that the woman's restless spirit is trapped in the asylum, forever walking the corridors in search of a release from her suffering. Other visitors to the asylum have reported seeing her appearing in the corner of their eyes, only to vanish when they turn to look directly at her. Her presence is often accompanied by a feeling of oppressive sadness, as though the ghost is still reliving the horrors of her past. The shadowy figures of the asylum. While the ghost of the lobotomized patient is one of the most famous spirits associated with the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, she is far from the only presence haunting the building. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the sighting of shadowy figures that dart in and out of the asylum's darkened rooms and hallways. These figures are often described as tall and indistinct, with no discernible features, moving quickly and vanishing when anyone tries to get a closer look. Many visitors have reported seeing these figures in the long, dimly lit corridors, where the shadows seem to move just out of their line of sight. Paranormal investigators have captured strange footage of shadowy forms, sometimes crossing doorways or standing motionless in the distance. The figures are typically reported in the upper floors of the building, which were once used to house the most difficult and violent patients. There are also reports of disembodied voices coming from the same areas where the shadowy figures are most commonly seen. These voices, often described as faint whispers or low murmurs, seem to come from nowhere, only to fade away as quickly as they appear. Some visitors claim to have heard the distinct sound of chains rattling, as though the spirits of the past are still bound by the restraints they once wore. The chapel of the asylum. Perhaps the most haunting area of the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is the chapel, a place once intended to offer spiritual solace to the patients. The chapel, which is located on the upper floors of the asylum, has become one of the most active locations for paranormal activity. Visitors who have entered the chapel often report feeling a heavy, suffocating presence, and some have even described the sensation of being touched by something unseen. A particularly chilling tale comes from a group of paranormal investigators who were exploring the chapel during a late-night investigation. As they set up their equipment, they felt an overwhelming sense of dread and could hear the sound of soft whispering, though no one was in the room with them. One investigator claims to have felt a cold hand resting on their shoulder, only to turn around and find no one behind them. The chapel is also a place where some of the more violent spirits of the asylum are said to reside. Accounts from former staff members suggest that certain patients who were once confined to the chapel, many of whom suffered from severe mental illness and violence, now haunt the area, causing disturbances. Some visitors report hearing the sound of someone praying, while others claim to see figures kneeling in the pews, their faces obscured by shadows. The spirit of the children. Another notable haunting at the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum involves the spirits of children, many of whom were patients at the hospital before it became a mental health facility. In the early years of the asylum's operation, children were often admitted for various reasons, some of which were as minor as hyperactivity or behavioral issues. These children were subjected to the same harsh treatments as the adult patients, and many died within the walls of the asylum. In the years following its closure, the spirits of these children have been said to linger in the building, particularly on the first and second floors, which house the pediatric patients. Visitors and paranormal investigators have reported hearing the sound of children's laughter, and some have even seen small figures darting between the rooms, disappearing before anyone could get a good look. The most unsettling account comes from a family who visited the asylum and reported hearing the distinct sound of a child calling out for their mother, only to turn around and find no one there. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum today. Today, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum stands as both a monument to the past and a testament to the countless lives that were affected by mental illness and mistreatment. While the building has been abandoned for nearly 30 years, the spirits of its former inhabitants continue to haunt the premises, their stories woven into the very fabric of the asylum. For those who dare to enter, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum offers more than just a glimpse into a dark chapter of American history. It offers an encounter with the restless souls who still linger, trapped by the torment of their past. The asylum is now a popular destination for ghost tours, and many visitors come seeking the thrill of encountering the supernatural. Some leave the building convinced that the spirits of the past have not yet found peace, while others walk away with a deeper understanding of the struggles faced by those who lived and died within these walls. But one thing is certain, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum remains a place where the past never truly fades away. It lingers in the form of shadowy figures, the cold touch of unseen hands, and the eerie whispers that continue to echo through its decaying hallways. For as long as the building stands, the spirits of the asylum will remain, bound by the suffering of their past, forever haunting the place where they once lived. Nestled in the rolling hills of Tennessee, the Bell Witch Cave near Adams is one of the most notorious haunted locations in the United States, shrouded in mystery and steeped in folklore. The tale of the Bell Witch is a story that has captivated generations, blending the supernatural with historical fact, and it is one of the most well-known ghost stories in American history. It is a tale of vengeance, torment, and the unexplained, involving an innocent family that was haunted by a spirit with a malevolent agenda. The Bell Witch haunting dates back to the early 19th century, when the Bell family moved to the small rural settlement of Adams, Tennessee. The family, headed by John Bell, was a hard-working farming family who, like many pioneers, sought to settle and make a living in the area. However, their quiet life soon took a terrifying turn when strange occurrences began happening on their property. These supernatural events began in 1817 and would continue for years, ultimately leaving an indelible mark on the history of the region. The beginning of the haunting. It all began with John Bell, the patriarch of the family, encountering a mysterious and unexplainable figure in the woods near their farm. At first, it seemed to be a harmless incident, but soon things escalated. The Bell family began hearing strange sounds at night, pounding noises on the walls, rattling chains, and most disturbingly, disembodied voices. The family initially dismissed the noises as the work of an animal or perhaps an intruder, but things quickly became far more sinister. Over the following weeks, the strange happenings intensified. The voice that had first been heard was now speaking directly to the family members. At first, the voice seemed playful, but it quickly turned dark and threatening. The entity, which identified itself as the Bell Witch, began to torment the Bell family in increasingly terrifying ways. The witch's most disturbing acts were directed at Kate Bell, John Bell's young daughter. It was reported that the Bell Witch would pull Kate's hair, pinch her, and even slap her face, leaving visible marks on her skin. The torment grew so intense that the Bell family sought help from their neighbors and local clergy. Despite attempts to find an explanation, the hauntings continued, and the Bell Witch began speaking more freely, revealing that it had a special interest in John Bell. The witch's vengeance on John Bell. As the haunting continued, the Bell Witch's focus shifted primarily to John Bell himself. It is said that the entity made it clear that it held a deep resentment for the Bell family, and it was particularly determined to make John Bell suffer. The Bell Witch reportedly spoke of past grudges and claimed to have a personal vendetta against him. The family was terrified, and despite seeking help from the local community, no one could find a solution. The haunting soon escalated to the point where John Bell was physically affected. It is said that the Bell Witch's presence caused him to experience a gradual and agonizing decline in his health. He began to suffer from what was described as a mysterious illness, one that no doctor could diagnose. His condition grew worse over time, and he was unable to recover. The Bell Witch seemed to feed on his misery, and it is said that John Bell's final days were filled with strange convulsions and tremors, leading many to believe that he was being poisoned, perhaps by the malicious entity itself. In 1820, after years of torment, John Bell died, and his death was directly attributed to the Bell Witch by some of the local community members. His passing marked the end of the witch's physical torment of the Bell family, but it was not the end of the story. The Bell Witch's legacy, particularly the role it played in John Bell's death, would live on, fueling further supernatural occurrences that would continue to haunt the region for years to come. The witch's final words. Before John Bell passed away, the Bell Witch is said to have made a final proclamation. The haunting would stop, but only after its business with the Bell family was finished. The entity allegedly promised that it would return in 7 years to finish its unfinished business. According to local legend, in 1828, the Bell Witch returned to the Bell family's property, this time with a new, more cryptic purpose. During this second visitation, the witch reportedly engaged in conversations with John Bell's son, Richard Bell, and the local residents, but the nature of these communications remains unclear. The accounts of these visitations vary, but many report that the Bell Witch did indeed return for a brief period before disappearing once again. After this, the hauntings at the Bell family farm ceased, and the Bell Witch's presence seemed to vanish from the area. However, despite the witch's apparent departure, the story did not end there. The Bell Witch Cave, located near the Bell family's homestead, has long been a place of paranormal activity, and it is believed to be the source of the witch's power. Over the years, numerous ghost hunters and paranormal investigators have visited the cave, and many have reported strange occurrences, including mysterious sounds, inexplicable lights, and the feeling of being watched. The Bell Witch Cave today. Today, the Bell Witch Cave remains a popular destination for those interested in the paranormal. The cave, which is located on private property near the original site of the Bell family farm, has been the focus of numerous investigations and has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in America. Visitors who venture into the cave often report eerie sensations, including the feeling of cold spots, a persistent sense of unease, and the sound of footsteps echoing through the dark passageways. Some paranormal investigators claim to have experienced unexplained phenomena within the cave, such as the faint sound of a woman's voice, the sudden drop in temperature, and the strange sensation of being touched or brushed by something invisible. Others have claimed to see shadowy figures moving in the cave, and many have described an overwhelming sense of dread while exploring the site. The legend lives on. The story of the Bell Witch has become a legend that continues to haunt the area to this day. While the original haunting of the Bell family has long since faded into the annals of history, the echoes of the Bell Witch remain a significant part of Tennessee folklore. Local legends continue to speak of the Bell Witch's vengeful spirit, and its connection to the land around the cave is still considered an essential part of the region's dark past. Despite the passage of time, the Bell Witch remains a powerful and enigmatic presence in the town of Adams. The stories of its supernatural abilities and the mysterious events that surrounded the Bell family continue to fascinate and frighten visitors, ghost hunters, and historians alike. As one of the most famous ghost stories in American history, the Bell Witch has become a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that there are forces beyond our understanding, and that some spirits may never find peace. For those brave enough to explore the Bell Witch Cave or visit the site of the Bell family farm, the legend lives on. The Bell Witch continues to haunt the pages of history, a restless spirit whose tale of vengeance, terror, and mystery refuses to be forgotten. In the heart of St. Louis, Missouri, lies the imposing and historic Lemp Mansion, a building that has become notorious not only for its architectural beauty, but also for its tragic history and lingering hauntings. The mansion, built in the early 19th century by John Adam Lemp, originally served as the home of the Lemp family, who were once among the wealthiest and most influential families in St. Louis due to their success in the brewing industry. However, despite the Lemp family's outward prosperity, the mansion's history is filled with violence, suicide, and heartbreak, a perfect storm for the kind of supernatural events that have made the Lemp Mansion one of the most haunted locations in the United States. The Lemp family's rise to wealth began in the 1840s when John Lemp founded the Lemp Brewery, which quickly grew into one of the largest and most successful breweries in the country. The Lemp family's fortune seemed unshakable, and their mansion was a symbol of that success, opulent, sprawling, and filled with luxury. But beneath the grandeur of the Lemp Mansion, darkness was already beginning to settle in. The mansion would later become a site of multiple suicides, untold tragedy, and restless spirits that are said to continue to haunt the building to this day. The suicides of the Lemp family. The most infamous aspect of the Lemp Mansion's haunted legacy is the series of suicides that plagued the family throughout the 20th century. The first suicide occurred in 1904, when Frederick Lemp, the oldest son of John Lemp, tragically took his own life. Frederick, who had been suffering from severe depression and mental health issues, died in a self-inflicted gunshot wound. His death marked the beginning of a dark chapter for the family. But it would not be the last. In 1920, tragedy struck again when William Lemp Sr., the patriarch of the family and the founder of the brewery, also took his own life. William, who had seen his once thriving business begin to decline due to prohibition and other financial pressures, shot himself in the head in the mansion. His death was a devastating blow to the family, but the subsequent suicides would only deepen the family's cursed legacy. Perhaps the most chilling of all the deaths occurred in 1949 when William Lemp Jr., the only surviving son of the Lemp family, also took his life. After the brewery had closed due to prohibition and the family's wealth dwindled, William Jr. seemed to fall into a deep spiral of despair. It was said that he locked himself in his room, wrote a few final notes, and then shot himself in the head. This marked the final suicide within the Lemp family, and it cemented the mansion's reputation as a place haunted by both tragedy and the restless spirits of the Lemp family. The hauntings of the Lemp Mansion. Given the dark history of the Lemp family and their tragic deaths, it's no surprise that the Lemp Mansion has become one of the most notorious haunted locations in America. Over the years, numerous visitors, staff members, and paranormal investigators have reported disturbing and inexplicable occurrences within the mansion's walls. Many believe that the ghosts of the Lemp family still haunt the building, seeking to make their presence known to the living. One of the most commonly reported phenomena in the Lemp Mansion is the sound of footsteps. Visitors have often heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps walking across the floors, particularly in the upper levels of the mansion, where several of the suicides took place. These footsteps are often heard late at night, even when the building is empty, and are usually followed by a strange, oppressive silence. Sometimes the footsteps seem to follow people as they walk through the mansion, creating an eerie sensation that someone or something is lurking just behind them. Perhaps the most well-known ghost in the mansion is that of William Lemp Jr., who is said to haunt the upper floors. Several accounts from visitors and staff describe a shadowy figure seen standing in the upstairs hallway or looking out of the windows, gazing mournfully at the St. Louis skyline. Some guests have even reported feeling a cold, invisible presence in the room, followed by the unmistakable sensation of being watched. A particularly eerie account comes from a visitor who reported seeing a figure standing at the top of the stairs, only for it to vanish as soon as they reached the landing. Another common haunting is associated with the attic of the Lemp Mansion, where it is believed that Frederick Lemp, the son who first committed suicide, spent much of his time. Many paranormal investigators claim that the attic is one of the most active locations in the building, with reports of strange noises, including the sounds of objects being moved or scratching noises from within the walls. Some visitors have even reported seeing a shadowy figure darting across the attic floor, disappearing before they could get a good look. In the heart of bustling London, one of the city's most iconic and luxurious boutique hotels, the Zetter Bloomsbury, hides a mysterious side beneath its contemporary design and trendy atmosphere. Despite its chic appearance and modern amenities, this hotel has a reputation for something far more unsettling. The Zetter Bloomsbury is known not only for offering stylish accommodations, but also for its haunting history, which has made it one of the most intriguing and chilling destinations for those curious about the supernatural. While many come to enjoy the vibrant atmosphere of the Bloomsbury district, complete with art galleries, cafes, and theaters, others find themselves drawn to the Zetter Bloomsbury not for its charm, but for the dark stories that echo through its walls. What many guests don't realize as they walk through its tastefully appointed rooms and corridors is that the hotel sits atop land with a history much older and darker than the sleek, modern facade suggests. Over the years, guests and staff alike have reported eerie occurrences, phantom footsteps, ghostly whispers, and inexplicable feelings of dread. As much as the Zetter Bloomsbury is praised for its aesthetic appeal, the whispers of its haunted past continue to intrigue those who venture within its walls. The history behind the hauntings. Before the Zetter Bloomsbury became the luxury hotel it is today, the building had a long history, beginning as a series of residences, some of which were connected to the darker aspects of London's past. The property, located in the historic Bloomsbury district, once housed private residents, including those in high society. However, there are whispers that the building's foundations were built on the site of an old graveyard, where plague victims were buried in the 17th and 18th centuries. Many believe that the spirits of the deceased, whose remains may still lie beneath the hotel, never truly left the area. The historical context of the site adds to its eerie aura. The land on which the Zetter Bloomsbury was built has seen centuries of history, including the devastating effects of the Great Plague of London. It is said that the area was heavily affected by the disease, and thousands of lives were lost in the neighborhood. As the land changed hands over the years, the dark energy of the past was buried beneath layers of new construction and renovation. The spirits that haunt the Zetter Bloomsbury may very well be the remnants of those who suffered and died during those dark times, their souls unable to rest in peace. The combination of the hotel's modern renovations and the lingering presence of history seems to have created the perfect environment for supernatural activity. It's this eerie combination of old and new that makes the Zetter Bloomsbury one of the most unsettling places in London. Apparitions and unseen presences. The most common type of paranormal activity reported by visitors to the Zetter Bloomsbury is the presence of apparitions. Guests staying in the hotel's rooms have frequently reported seeing ghostly figures moving in and out of their line of sight. Often described as shadowy, indistinct forms, these figures appear to be passing through the hotel's corridors, only to vanish when looked at directly. Some guests have described the figures as vague silhouettes, often seen out of the corner of their eye, but when they turn to face them fully, they are gone. One of the most notable and frequently encountered apparitions is that of a woman in a flowing white gown. The ghost is often seen standing near the windows, gazing out over the city below. Some guests have claimed to see her looking out wistfully, while others report the eerie sensation of being watched when entering certain rooms. The figure seems to glide silently, never speaking, only existing as a fleeting presence. Despite numerous attempts to capture this entity on film, she has never been caught on camera, adding to the mystery of her existence. The feeling of being watched is not confined to the apparition sightings. Staff members working late at the hotel have frequently reported a sense of an unseen presence lingering nearby. Some staff members have described the unsettling sensation of footsteps following them as they walk through the hotel's hallways, only to turn and find no one there. Others have described feeling a sudden drop in temperature, an unmistakable sign that something or someone is in the room with them. unexplained noises and sounds. Another strange phenomenon that has become common in the Zed or Bloomsbury are the unexplained sounds that seem to emanate from empty rooms or hallways. Many guests have reported hearing the sound of soft footsteps walking down the corridors, as if someone is pacing back and forth, but when they open the door to investigate, there is no one there. These footsteps are often accompanied by the distinct sound of faint whispers, as though people are conversing just out of reach. Perhaps even more unnerving is the sound of glass clinking or objects shifting when no one is present. In the hotel's restaurant, which was once part of the original structure, staff have reported hearing the clatter of dishes or silverware late at night, even when the restaurant is closed and empty. The sounds of faint laughter and voices have also been reported by guests staying in the upper floors. The eerie phenomenon often stops as quickly as it begins, leaving guests with a feeling of deep unease. One of the most peculiar incidents was reported by a guest who stayed in one of the suites. Guests claimed that during the night, they woke to hear the sound of a piano playing a soft, melancholic tune. When they looked around, they saw no one playing the piano, yet the notes continued to echo throughout the room. The music abruptly stopped and the room returned to silence, but the guest was left shaken, unable to explain what had occurred. The feeling of dread, the sensation of unease seems to be an almost universal experience for visitors to the Zed or Bloomsbury. Many guests have described feeling an overwhelming sense of dread or oppression when they enter certain rooms or corridors. Some describe it as if the very air is heavy and the walls seem to close in on them. It is said that these feelings are particularly strong in areas of the hotel where renovations took place over the original foundation, locations that, according to some, might still hold the residual energy of the spirits trapped in the building. The most extreme cases of this phenomenon have been reported by guests who stayed in the hotel's top-floor suites. One guest claimed to have woken up in the middle of the night, feeling as though someone was in the room with them, watching them intently. The sensation was so intense that the guest could not shake the feeling of suffocating fear and a deep sense of dread. The room, though luxurious and inviting in daylight, became suffocating and oppressive when the lights were dimmed at night. The Zed or Bloomsbury today. Despite its eerie reputation, the Zed or Bloomsbury remains one of the most popular and sought-after boutique hotels in London. Many guests come seeking a unique and sophisticated experience in the heart of one of the city's most vibrant districts. However, for those seeking a more thrilling experience, the hotel also offers the chance to encounter something beyond the ordinary, whether in the form of a fleeting apparition, the sensation of being watched, or the sound of unseen footsteps following you down an empty hallway. As the hotel continues to thrive, it remains entwined with a supernatural presence that is impossible to ignore. Whether or not you believe in ghosts, the fact remains that the Zed or Bloomsbury is a place where the living and the dead seem to coexist in an eerie, unspoken truce. Guests come for luxury, but many leave with stories of strange, unexplainable encounters that add to the growing legend of the hotel. If you find yourself in the Bloomsbury district of London, whether for business, leisure, or the thrill of the unknown, a stay at the Zed or Bloomsbury promises more than just a comfortable night's sleep. For some, it offers a chance to step into a world where the line between the living and the dead becomes blurred, where history and mystery collide and the past lingers in the shadows. But be warned, the spirits of the past may be closer than you think, waiting for you to cross paths with them. Nestled in the picturesque coastal town of Swanage, Dorset, lies the historic Square and Compass pub, a charming establishment that has been a gathering place for locals and travelers alike for centuries. While many come for its warm ales and hearty fare, there's more to the pub than meets the eye. Known not just for its rich history, but also for its eerie reputation, the Square and Compass is one of the most haunted pubs in the UK. Over the years, both staff and visitors have reported strange occurrences, ghostly apparitions, and an undeniable sense of the supernatural lingering within the walls of this centuries-old establishment. The history of the Square and Compass dates back to the early 19th century, making it a staple of Swanage's culture and history. Originally a humble coaching inn, the pub has seen countless stories unfold within its walls, many of which seem to have left a lasting imprint on the building. Located near the Isle of Purbeck, the pub sits at the edge of a land rich with folklore, which is reflected in the strange, ghostly activity that has plagued the establishment for years. From ghostly figures to disembodied voices, the square and compass is a place where the past refuses to stay in the past. The haunting of the former landlord. Perhaps the most well-known ghost to haunt the square and compass is the spirit of a former landlord, who is believed to have died tragically in the building in the early 20th century. The exact cause of his death remains unclear, but many speculate that it was the result of an accident or foul play. His presence is said to still linger in the pub, and his apparition has been seen on several occasions by guests and staff. The landlord's ghost is typically described as a tall, imposing figure, dressed in the traditional attire of a pub owner from the early 1900s. Visitors who have stayed in the rooms above the pub have reported the distinct sensation of someone watching them as they sleep, often accompanied by a cold draft that sweeps through the room unexpectedly. One guest, staying alone in a room above the bar, claimed to have seen the figure of a man standing at the foot of the bed late at night. When they turned to speak, the figure vanished without a trace. In addition to the sightings of the landlord's ghost, there are numerous reports from staff members who have experienced strange phenomena, particularly in the cellar and bar area. Glasses have been reported as mysteriously moving on their own, sometimes even being knocked off shelves, only to land perfectly on the floor without breaking. Some staff members claim to have seen shadows moving in the corners of the bar or heard soft murmurs when the pub is quiet, as though the landlord is still supervising his establishment from beyond the grave. Ghostly sightings of former patrons. While the landlord's spirit is the most frequently encountered apparition, the ghosts of former patrons are also said to haunt the square and compass. The pub's long history has seen it as a meeting point for sailors, travelers, and local townsfolk, many of whom spent their final days in the pub's warm embrace. It is believed that some of these past patrons have never left. Several guests have reported seeing ghostly figures sitting at the tables, enjoying their pints in the dim light of the pub. When approached, these figures are said to vanish or melt into the shadows. One regular visitor to the pub recounted a chilling experience where, while sitting in the corner near the fireplace, he saw a man in old-fashioned clothes sipping a drink at an empty table. The man was in his late 50s, with a grizzled face and a grim expression. The visitor, thinking him to be an eccentric local, approached the table, but when he looked up, the man had disappeared entirely, leaving nothing but an icy chill in the air. Other patrons have reported hearing faint conversations and laughter echoing from empty tables late at night, suggesting that the spirits of past guests still gather in the pub, as though time itself has looped and they continue to haunt the pub in the afterlife. The idea of former patrons reliving their time in the pub, or perhaps lingering in the space they once loved, only adds to the mystery and allure of the square and compass. The cellar and the smuggling legends. In addition to its spectral patrons, the square and compass is also tied to a number of local legends, many of which involve smuggling. The area surrounding Swanage, and indeed the entire coast of Dorset, has a long history of smuggling, dating back to the 18th and 19th centuries. The square and compass was once rumored to have been a key stop for smugglers, who would use the pub as a cover for their illicit trade. One of the most chilling aspects of the square and compass is the cellar, which is said to have been used as a storage area for smuggled goods. The stone walls, damp and cold, are believed to still hold the echoes of the past, and many who venture into the cellar report a strange, heavy atmosphere that pervades the space. Several paranormal investigators who have explored the cellar have reported cold spots, strange noises, and an overwhelming sense of foreboding. One particularly eerie incident took place when a group of visitors touring the cellar claimed to hear the sound of chains rattling from deep within the stone chambers. The sound seemed to come from nowhere and echoed through the narrow, claustrophobic space. Some believe the rattling chains could be the spirits of the smugglers, still bound to the illegal activities they engaged in so many years ago. The lantern light and the smuggler's ghost. One of the most persistent legends surrounding the square and compass involves a ghostly lantern light that is said to appear near the coastline at night. The light is believed to be the spirit of a smuggler who met his demise while transporting goods along the cliffside. According to the legend, the smuggler was chased by the authorities and fatally injured, and his lantern was left behind as he collapsed. Over the years, reports have surfaced of a flickering light appearing along the coastal path near the pub late at night, leading some to believe that the smuggler's ghost still roams the area, forever searching for the goods he could never deliver. Guests who have stayed at the pub report seeing the lantern light bobbing along the cliffs in the dead of night, often accompanied by a distant, ghostly figure moving in and out of the shadows. It's said that if you stand on the pub's terrace and watch long enough, you might catch a glimpse of the lantern, though it is always just out of reach, disappearing when you try to get too close. The Square and Compass today. Today, the Square and Compass pub remains a beloved institution in Swanage, drawing locals and tourists alike with its historical charm, delicious food, and famous ales. Despite the passage of time, the pub's supernatural legacy continues to make it a must-visit destination for anyone with a curiosity for the paranormal. The combination of its rich history, eerie occurrences, and connection to the past makes the Square and Compass more than just a pub. It's a place where the living and the dead seem to coexist in harmony. Whether you're there for a pint, a ghostly encounter, or simply to experience the atmosphere of an ancient pub, the Square and Compass promises an experience like no other. So next time you find yourself in Swanage, stop by the Square and Compass. Just be mindful of the spirits who may still be lingering in the shadows, and don't be surprised if you catch a glimpse of someone who never really left. For those with an interest in the supernatural, the Square and Compass remains one of the most intriguing and haunted spots in all of England, where the past lives on and the dead continue to haunt the living. In the heart of Armagh, Northern Ireland, a somber and solemn structure stands as a reminder of the darker side of history, HM Prison Armagh. Once a notorious women's prison, this institution has gained a reputation not only for its grim and often brutal history, but also for the ghostly apparitions and inexplicable occurrences reported by those who have ventured within its walls. The prison, built in the early 19th century, housed female inmates for nearly 2 centuries, many of whom endured harsh conditions that led to a legacy of suffering, sadness, and for some, death. The prison's history is as disturbing as it is fascinating. Originally constructed to hold male prisoners, it was later repurposed to house women and became infamous for its treatment of its female inmates. These women were subjected to overcrowding, poor conditions, and punitive labor. During its time in operation, HM Prison Armagh witnessed not only the suffering of its inmates but also political unrest. It was during the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland that the prison saw some of its most tragic events, as political prisoners were held under dire circumstances. The prison closed its doors in 1986, but its history and the spirits of those who once resided within remain. Today, HM Prison Armagh is open for tours, but visitors often leave with more than they bargained for, reporting eerie encounters that suggest the spirits of the past still linger in the building, trapped by the harsh conditions they once endured. The ghost of the Lady in White. Among the most famous hauntings associated with HM Prison Armagh is the apparition of the Lady in White. This ghostly figure is believed to be the spirit of one of the women who was held in the prison, and her appearance is often accompanied by an overwhelming sense of sorrow and despair. Visitors to the prison have reported seeing her wandering the hallways, dressed in a flowing white gown, her face obscured by a veil of sadness. The Lady in White is often seen near the prison's exercise yard or in the main corridor, where the spirits of former inmates are said to still walk. The apparition has been described as a silhouette of a woman, her presence more felt than seen. Many report a sudden, unexplained coldness that washes over them when the Lady in White appears, as though her spirit brings with it the chill of death and sorrow. Several staff members working at the prison have shared eerie stories of encountering the Lady in White during their shifts. One staff member recounted hearing the sound of soft footsteps behind her as she walked down one of the prison's many corridors, only to turn around and find the hallway empty. Another staff member reported seeing the figure of a woman in a white dress at the end of a long corridor. When they attempted to approach her, the woman vanished into thin air, leaving only a sense of profound grief in her wake. the cells and the spirits of the inmates. It's not just the lady in white that haunts HM Prison Armagh. Visitors and paranormal investigators alike have reported strange and disturbing occurrences in the very cells where the prisoners once languished. Many of these cells, which were used to house some of the most notorious women prisoners in Ireland, have a reputation for being particularly haunted. The cells, with their cold stone walls and narrow windows, have become places where the spirits of past inmates are said to remain. Several ghostly figures have been sighted in these cells, with the most common being shadowy forms that flicker in and out of sight. These figures are often described as motionless, standing in the corners of the rooms, their faces hidden in darkness. Some visitors report feeling an oppressive presence when entering these cells, as though the very air is heavy with the sorrow and anger of those who once resided there. Perhaps the most unsettling experience reported by visitors is the feeling of being trapped in the cells. Many claim to have had moments where they felt as though the walls were closing in on them, a sensation reminiscent of the fear and isolation felt by the women who were confined to the prison for years. In some cases, visitors have claimed to hear distant cries or muffled voices, as if the ghosts of the inmates are still communicating from beyond the grave. The ghost of the political prisoner, one of the more poignant hauntings at HM Prison Armagh, is associated with the political prisoners who were held during the Troubles. These prisoners were often treated with great cruelty, and many were subjected to dirty protests and other forms of mistreatment. The prison was notorious for its harsh treatment of political prisoners, many of whom were part of the Irish Republican Army, eerie, or other nationalist groups. The ghost of a political prisoner is said to haunt the prison, particularly the cells and isolation units where these individuals were held. This apparition is often seen wearing the tattered remains of the prison's uniforms, their face contorted in a look of anger and defiance. Many visitors have reported seeing the ghost standing at the bars of the cell, staring out into the empty space as though still in protest against the injustice they faced. Witnesses have described the ghost as restless, moving from one part of the prison to another, as though reliving the torment of their imprisonment. Some have reported hearing low, guttural whispers that seem to come from the spirit, accompanied by the sound of rattling chains, a stark reminder of the conditions that these political prisoners were subjected to. The paranormal investigations at HM Prison Armagh. Due to the building's tragic history and numerous reports of supernatural activity, HM Prison Armagh has become a hotspot for paranormal investigations. Ghost hunters, mediums, and enthusiasts regularly visit the site in search of evidence of the spirits that are said to linger in the prison. The results of these investigations are often chilling. One paranormal investigation team reported capturing EVP recordings, electronic voice phenomena, that included the sound of a woman crying and the distinct sound of chains rattling, both of which seemed to come from the areas where the prison's most troubled inmates were held. Additionally, some investigators have claimed to see shadowy figures moving in and out of view, often in places where no one was supposed to be. Several investigators have also reported an increase in electromagnetic activity in certain areas of the prison, particularly near the cells and the exercise yard, where the spirits of the inmates are most often said to be active. Many of these readings seem to spike just before strange noises or sightings occur, leading some to believe that the spirits are trying to communicate through these anomalies. HM Prison Armagh today. Today, HM Prison Armagh stands as a heritage site, offering tours that explore both its dark history and its haunted reputation. Visitors can walk through the prison's cold, stone corridors, explore the old cells where the women once lived, and hear the eerie tales of the spirits who are said to remain. Though the prison has closed its doors to the living, the spirits of the past continue to haunt its halls, their stories of hardship and suffering still told in whispers through the shadows. Despite its tragic past, HM Prison Armagh now serves as a place of reflection, a reminder of the strength and resilience of those who endured its harsh conditions. But for those who are brave enough to visit, it also remains a site of mystery and the supernatural, where the past never truly fades and the spirits of the forgotten continue to make their presence felt. The prison's haunted legacy is far from over, and for those who venture within, the ghosts of HM Prison Armagh remain an ever-present part of its history. So, if you find yourself in Armagh and feel brave enough to visit this place of forgotten souls, be prepared to experience more than just history. The spirits of political prisoners, inmates, and haunting figures from the past may still be waiting to share their story, one that continues to reverberate through the cold, dark walls of HM Prison Armagh. Tucked away in the historic city of Charleston, South Carolina, one of the most intriguing and chilling haunted locations is the old Charleston Jail. This site, which once held some of the most notorious criminals in the region, has a dark history that is etched into its very walls. The jail has been a place of torment, suffering, and death, making it a perfect candidate for the many ghost stories that surround it today. The old Charleston Jail was constructed in 1802 and operated until 1939. During its years of service, it housed countless prisoners, including pirates, slaves, hardened criminals, and political prisoners. Among the most infamous to ever set foot in the jail was Lavinia Fisher, one of America's first female serial killers, who was believed to have poisoned several travelers. The jail became known for its brutal conditions, where inmates faced overcrowding, disease, poor treatment, and eventual death. These tragic experiences left an imprint on the building that is believed to persist to this day. After the jail's closure, it was used for various purposes, including as a hospital during the Civil War, but its haunted reputation remained. Today, the old Charleston Jail is one of the most well-known haunted sites in Charleston, attracting both history enthusiasts and those seeking paranormal experiences. Visitors to the site report strange occurrences, eerie sensations, and ghostly sightings that suggest the spirits of past prisoners are still confined within the walls of this chilling building. The ghost of Lavinia Fisher. One of the most infamous ghosts said to haunt the old Charleston Jail is that of Lavinia Fisher, the notorious figure tied to the jail's darker history. Lavinia, along with her husband, was accused of running a murderous inn in the early 19th century. It was rumored that she lured travelers to their deaths by offering them poisoned meals. The legend of her crimes remains one of the most haunting aspects of Charleston's criminal history. Lavinia was arrested and eventually hanged for her alleged crimes in 1820, making her one of the most infamous female criminals in America. But despite her execution, many believe her spirit never left the old Charleston Jail. Visitors to the site often report seeing her ghostly figure, usually dressed in the clothes she was said to wear during her trial, near the execution area or in the prison's gallows room. Witnesses claim to have seen a woman in a dark dress, her face obscured, walking quietly through the building, vanishing into the walls just before they could get a closer look. Some paranormal investigators claim to have captured strange EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, in the gallows room, which they believe are Lavinia's voice calling out for attention. Others have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness or despair when they stand near the area of her execution. The intense cold spots that appear when she is said to be near add to the chilling atmosphere. Lavinia's restless spirit, some say, may be seeking redemption, but her violent death and the heinous crimes she allegedly committed seem to have bound her to the jail, unable to escape its walls. The spirits of the prisoners. While Lavinia Fisher's ghost is the most famous, she is far from the only spirit said to haunt the old Charleston Jail. The jail itself was home to countless individuals who endured unimaginable suffering, and many believe their spirits remain trapped within its grim confines. One of the most frequently reported hauntings involves the shadowy figures of former prisoners. These apparitions are often described as tall, dark shapes that move quickly through the darkened hallways and cell blocks. They seem to appear just out of sight, always darting around corners, only to disappear as quickly as they are seen. Some witnesses have claimed to see disembodied arms reaching out from the walls or hear whispers echoing through the cells, though no one is visible. Several staff members and visitors have shared accounts of being touched by an unseen force while exploring the building. One worker claimed to feel a cold hand brush their shoulder while walking through a dark hallway, only to turn around and find no one there. Others report the sensation of being pushed or even scratched while standing in certain areas of the jail. In addition to the apparitions, there have been reports of screaming, particularly in the upper cells where the more violent prisoners were held. These screams, often described as inhuman and anguished, are believed to be the last cries of those who died in the harsh conditions of the jail. The haunted cells. The cells in the old Charleston jail have long been a focal point for paranormal activity. These cramped, dark, and oppressive spaces housed the prisoners who were either awaiting trial or serving their sentences. Over the years, the walls of these cells became saturated with the fear and suffering of the inmates, and many believe that the residual energy from their torment has seeped into the very structure of the building. One of the most disturbing reports from visitors involves the feeling of being trapped. Some have described the sensation of being unable to move, as though an invisible force is holding them in place within the cell. Others have reported being overwhelmed by the sudden sensation of being watched or surrounded by unseen figures, creating a sense of claustrophobia and suffocation. Some guests claim to have heard the sound of metal bars rattling, even when the cells are locked and empty. One particularly unsettling incident occurred when a group of paranormal investigators ventured into the solitary confinement cells. These cells, used for the most difficult and dangerous prisoners, were extremely small and dark. The investigators reported hearing footsteps approaching from behind them, only to turn around and find no one there. The temperature in the cell dropped dramatically, and one investigator claimed to feel a tug on their shirt, as though someone was trying to pull them toward the corner of the room. The execution area. The most intense paranormal activity in the old Charleston jail is believed to occur near the execution area, where many prisoners, including Lavina Fisher, met their end. The gallows are said to hold a heavy, oppressive energy, and some visitors report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread or nausea as they approach this part of the building. Several people who have entered the execution area have described hearing the sound of a rope creaking or the sensation of being choked, as though the spirits of those who were hanged are still trying to relive their final moments. Some have even reported seeing the shadowy figure of a man hanging from the gallows, only for the apparition to vanish as soon as they try to approach. The last hanging to take place at the old Charleston jail was in 1911, when a young man named Henry McElveen was executed for murder. His spirit is said to haunt the gallows, with several visitors reporting that they felt an unexplainable sadness and heavy presence when they visited the area. The sound of chains clanking and ghostly voices calling out are also common reports from those who have toured the execution room. The old Charleston jail today. Today, the old Charleston jail stands as one of the most popular tourist destinations in Charleston, offering guided tours that explore the haunted history of the building. The jail's eerie reputation continues to draw curious visitors and paranormal enthusiasts eager to experience the site's supernatural activity firsthand. The tour guides regale guests with chilling stories of the ghosts that still linger in the cells, the gallows, and the corridors of the old building. For those interested in experiencing the supernatural, the jail also offers nighttime ghost tours, where guests are led through the darkened halls and cells. Hoping to capture evidence of the paranormal, many visitors have reported hearing disembodied voices, feeling sudden cold spots, and even capturing unexplained images on camera during these nighttime tours. The old Charleston jail, with its dark history and its lingering spirits, remains a powerful reminder of Charleston's past, a past marked by suffering, death, and lingering souls that refuse to rest. For anyone brave enough to visit, the jail promises more than just a glimpse into history. It offers an encounter with the unknown, with ghosts that continue to walk the halls of the old Charleston jail, telling their stories from beyond the grave. In the rolling hills of San Jose, California, stands one of the most bizarre and unsettling sights in the United States, the Winchester Mystery House. Known for its labyrinthine design, hidden doors, and staircases leading to nowhere, the house has captivated visitors and paranormal enthusiasts for over a century. The story behind the house is just as strange as the building itself, filled with mystery, superstition, and a deep sense of the supernatural. The Winchester Mystery House was constructed by Sarah Winchester, the widow of William Wirt Winchester, heir to the fortune of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, makers of the famous rifle. Following her husband's death in 1881, Sarah was told by a medium that the spirits of those killed by her husband's invention were seeking vengeance. The medium allegedly told Sarah that the only way to appease these restless spirits was to build a house for them, a house that would never stop expanding. As a result, Sarah Winchester embarked on an ambitious and seemingly irrational project to build a home that was constantly under construction. The house grew continuously, with no clear blueprint, as Sarah reportedly ordered new rooms, staircases, and hallways without regard for design or structure. The mansion expanded until it became a sprawling maze of over 160 rooms, including doors that opened to walls, staircases that led to ceilings, and windows positioned in the oddest places. The eccentric design choices and mysterious nature of the house gave rise to its reputation as a paranormal hotspot, though Sarah Winchester passed away in 1922. The mystery of the house and its strange design have continued to intrigue both historians and those with an interest in the supernatural. The legend of Sarah's obsession with building the house as an appeasement to the spirits who tormented her has made the Winchester Mystery House one of the most famous haunted locations in the country. The Haunting of Sarah Winchester. Sarah Winchester's story and her connection to the house are central to the haunting legends surrounding the Winchester Mystery House. It is said that Sarah believed the ghosts of those who had fallen victim to the Winchester rifle were constantly present in the house, watching over her. She was told by the medium that she needed to keep building the house to prevent the spirits from becoming vengeful. As a result, she oversaw construction day and night, never allowing the work to stop. Many believe that Sarah's spirit still lingers in the house, roaming its winding hallways and secret rooms. Visitors and staff members have reported sightings of a ghostly woman in period clothing, believed to be Sarah, walking through the halls or standing in front of windows. One of the most commonly seen manifestations is that of Sarah's figure, particularly near the front door or in the gardens, where she is said to look out at the expansive grounds she once worked so tirelessly to create. Sarah's restless spirit is said to appear when the house's mysterious atmosphere becomes especially thick, often during the late hours of the evening. Some visitors claim to have heard the sound of footsteps following them through the halls, only to turn around and find the space empty. Others report feeling a sense of unease when near certain rooms or areas where Sarah is believed to have spent a lot of her time. The staircase to nowhere. One of the most famous features of the Winchester Mystery House is the staircase that leads to nowhere. This seemingly bizarre architectural choice has become one of the most iconic elements of the house. The staircase climbs several feet before abruptly stopping at a solid wall, with no access to any other room or floor. It is believed that the staircase was built as a means to confuse the spirits and keep them disoriented. Some say that the house was designed to be a spiritual labyrinth, preventing the restless spirits from finding their way in the afterlife. Numerous visitors to the house have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of unease or a sense of being watched when near this staircase. Paranormal investigators who have spent time in the house claim that the area near the staircase is one of the most active, with strange cold spots often appearing and unexplained sounds emanating from the walls. Some have even claimed to hear faint footsteps or whispers while standing near the stairs, as though the spirits of the house are trying to communicate. The staircase to nowhere is not just a physical curiosity, but a powerful symbol of the house's haunting. It reflects the irrationality and the obsession that Sarah Winchester had with appeasing the spirits, building something that served no practical purpose but was believed to have spiritual significance. The secret doors and hidden rooms. Another feature that sets the Winchester Mystery House apart from any other residence is the hidden doors and secret rooms that seem to appear at every turn. The mansion is filled with doors that open into blank walls, windows with no view, and hallways that led to nowhere. These mysterious features are believed to be a result of Sarah Winchester's obsession with keeping the spirits from finding her. The design of the house was deliberately made to confuse and disorient, with the belief that if the spirits were kept in the dark, they would be unable to find her or torment her. There are also rooms that are invisible to the public, with some visitors stumbling across secret doors hidden behind bookcases or false walls. These rooms are often described as being dark and cold, and some guests claim to have felt a sudden, overwhelming sensation of dread when entering them. Some paranormal investigators have reported spike in electromagnetic activity in certain rooms, particularly in the spaces where the design is most baffling, leading them to believe these rooms hold a special, supernatural significance. In addition to the physical secret spaces, there are reports of unseen presences lingering in the rooms. Staff members have described hearing doors open and close by themselves, and some have witnessed objects being moved inexplicably. In one reported incident, a staff member claimed to see a chair rocking by itself, even though no one had been sitting in it. Other staff members have heard the sound of footsteps following them through rooms where no one was present, adding to the house's reputation as a place of intense spiritual activity. The spirits of the house. The spirits that are believed to haunt the Winchester Mystery House are not just those of Sarah Winchester herself, but also of the many workers, visitors, and even the spirits of those killed by the Winchester rifle. One of the most commonly reported paranormal experiences is the sound of laughter, often heard in the hallways or from rooms that seem to be empty. Some claim the laughter belongs to the spirits of the workers who spent countless hours building the mansion, toiling away under the orders of a woman who believed she was trapped in a cycle of endless construction. There are also frequent reports of disembodied voices, which often whisper unintelligibly or call out in the dark. One of the most unsettling accounts comes from a group of visitors who reported hearing a woman's voice saying, "Come back, come back." The voice seemed to come from nowhere, echoing in the empty rooms, leaving the group feeling uneasy and unsettled. Guests have also reported seeing shadowy figures in the windows, particularly on the top floor, where Sarah spent much of her time. The figures are described as human-shaped but appear translucent, vanishing when approached. Some investigators believe these figures represent the spirits of people from the house's troubled past, spirits who still walk the halls, forever bound to the mansion. The Winchester Mystery House today. Today, the Winchester Mystery House stands as a popular tourist attraction and a haunted house tour that draws visitors from all over the world. While the mansion is open for day tours, it is during the evening tours that the supernatural presence truly seems to come alive. Paranormal investigators frequently visit the house, conducting investigations that have led to the capture of unusual phenomena, including orbs of light, strange sounds, and movement of objects. For those interested in the supernatural, the Winchester Mystery House offers an experience unlike any other, where the past is alive, and the spirits of those long gone continue to haunt the house, their restless souls forever tied to the mansion's labyrinthine halls. Whether you come for the history, the architecture, or the thrill of the unknown, the Winchester Mystery House is a place where mystery, tragedy, and the supernatural collide in a maze of secrets that may never be fully understood. If you ever find yourself in San Jose, make sure to take the time to explore this eerie mansion. But be warned, you may not leave the same way you entered, as the spirits that linger within are waiting, watching, whispering, and perhaps even guiding you through the maze of the unknown. In the rolling hills of San Jose, California, stands one of the most bizarre and unsettling sights in the United States, the Winchester Mystery House. Known for its labyrinthine design, hidden doors, and staircases leading to nowhere, the house has captivated visitors and paranormal enthusiasts for over a century. The story behind the house is just as strange as the building itself, filled with mystery, superstition, and a deep sense of the supernatural. The Winchester Mystery House was constructed by Sarah Winchester, the widow of William Wirt Winchester, heir to the fortune of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, makers of the famous rifle. Following her tucked away in the historic town of Deadwood, South Dakota, stands the Adams House, a grand Victorian mansion that holds a chilling reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the United States. This stunning mansion, built in 1892 by the wealthy Adams family, is not only a relic of the town's rich mining history, but also a site deeply intertwined with tragedy, death, and lingering spirits. The house's dark history, combined with its opulent design, creates the perfect backdrop for the ghostly occurrences that have been reported for over a century. Deadwood itself is a place steeped in the lore of the Wild West. Known for its lawless past and colorful characters, including Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane. The Adams house, however, stands as a more personal ghost story, a tale of a family whose wealth and success were overshadowed by personal loss and heartache. The ghosts of the Adams family and those who frequented their home are said to still haunt the property, their restless spirits forever tied to the mansion's eerie atmosphere. The tragic history of the Adams family. The mansion was built by Martha and W.E. Adams, who came to Deadwood during the town's gold rush days. The family quickly became prominent in the community, and their home reflected their success, elegant, spacious, and full of character. However, the Adams family's story took a tragic turn when Martha Adams died suddenly in 1901, just a few years after the house was completed. Her death, believed to have been caused by a stroke, left a void in the home. And some believe her spirit never left. In 1915, another blow struck the family when W.E. Adams, Martha's husband, died in the home as well, though under mysterious circumstances. It is said that his death was caused by complications related to a long-standing illness, but some rumors suggest that foul play was involved, particularly given the tense political atmosphere in the town at the time. W.E. Adams' death marked the beginning of a series of tragic events that plagued the family's legacy, and many believe that the spirits of the Adams family, along with the souls of the people connected to them, continue to haunt the mansion. The ghost of Martha Adams. The most frequently reported haunting at the Adams house is that of Martha Adams, the family matriarch. Visitors and staff members alike have reported sightings of her ghost, particularly in the areas where she spent the most time in life, such as the upstairs bedrooms and the grand staircase. According to witnesses, Martha's spirit appears as a gentle, pale figure, often seen gliding silently down the stairs or standing near the window, gazing out at the town below. Some describe her as wearing a Victorian gown, her long hair tucked into a bun, and her face serene, though marked by an expression of sadness. One of the most eerie reports comes from a staff member who, while cleaning one of the upstairs rooms, looked up to see a figure in the doorway. The figure was wearing a long, flowing dress and had a soft, kind expression on her face, but when the staff member blinked, the figure vanished. Others have reported hearing faint sobs or the sound of footsteps coming from the upstairs area, even when the house was empty. Another common experience is the cold spots that appear in certain rooms, especially near the main staircase and upstairs hallway, areas where Martha's presence is most strongly felt. Guests staying in the upper floors have reported feeling a sudden chill in the air, often accompanied by an overwhelming sense of dread or sadness. The presence of W.E. Adams. In addition to the spirit of Martha, some visitors and staff claim to have encountered the ghost of W.E. Adams, the patriarch of the family. His spirit is believed to be tied to the office and library, where he spent many hours working. Witnesses who have experienced his presence report seeing the ghost of a man wearing dark clothing and a long coat, sometimes standing in the doorway of the office or sitting at a desk. The figure is often described as tall and thin, with a face that is difficult to distinguish. Some paranormal investigators have suggested that W.E. Adams' spirit may be lingering in the house due to his untimely death and the mystery surrounding it. One particularly chilling report involves a group of guests who were exploring the house when they suddenly felt a sudden sharp drop in temperature in the library, followed by the unmistakable sound of a chair scraping across the floor. When they investigated, they found the room empty but still felt a strong presence, as though someone or something was watching them. The shadowy figures in the hallways. Another common phenomenon reported by visitors to the Adams house involves shadowy figures seen moving in and out of rooms or walking through the long hallways. These shadows are often described as tall and humanoid, but unlike typical ghost sightings, these figures do not have distinct features. Instead, they seem to be dark silhouettes that pass quickly by the corner of one's eye, disappearing when one tries to focus on them. Some have reported seeing these shadowy figures standing in doorways, watching guests as they explore the house, but when they approach the figure, it vanishes before they can get close enough to investigate. Paranormal investigators who have used infrared cameras to capture evidence of these sightings have reported seeing these figures on footage, only for them to disappear moments later. The shadowy figures are believed to be the spirits of former residents, workers, or even people who had a strong connection to the house during its many years. While they are not as distinctly recognizable as the apparitions of Martha or W. E. Adams, these shadowy presences continue to evoke a sense of foreboding and unease among those who encounter them. The lurking presence in the basement. The basement of the Adams house is another area that is often described as particularly unsettling. While the rest of the mansion is beautifully preserved, the basement remains more shadowy and foreboding. Visitors who have ventured into the basement have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of discomfort and oppression, as though something malevolent is lurking in the dark. One of the most disturbing experiences in the basement involves the sound of chains rattling or the sensation of being grabbed by an unseen force. Some guests have claimed to feel a sudden tug on their clothing or a cold hand brushing against their skin. The basement is also said to be the site of a strange, unexplained knocking noise, often heard in the walls, as though someone is trying to escape from within. Many believe that the spirits of former servants or unfortunate souls connected to the house may be trapped in the basement, their restless energy creating a haunting presence. The atmosphere in this part of the house is thick with tension, and even those who are skeptical of the supernatural often feel uneasy when exploring the basement. The Adams House today. Today, the Adams House serves as a historic museum, offering tours that explore both its architectural beauty and the chilling ghost stories that have become an integral part of its history. Visitors are invited to explore the rooms, admire the Victorian decor, and learn about the lives of the Adams family. But many leave with more than just a lesson in history. They often take away a sense of unease, having experienced strange encounters or eerie sensations during their visit. The Adams house remains one of the most haunted landmarks in Deadwood, a town known for its ties to the Wild West and its colorful past. Whether you are visiting for its historical significance or the thrill of the supernatural, the Adams house offers a glimpse into a past filled with tragedy, loss, and the lingering spirits of those who cannot let go. For those with a sense of adventure and a curiosity about the unknown, a visit to the Adams house promises more than just a walk through history. It offers a chance to encounter the spirits of the past, spirits that continue to roam the halls of the mansion, forever bound to the place they once called home. Whether they are seeking closure, redemption, or simply to remind us that the past never truly fades, the ghosts of the Adams house remain a constant presence, a haunting reminder of the lives lost and the stories left behind. Husband's death in 1881, Sarah was told by a medium that the spirits of those killed by her husband's invention were seeking vengeance. The medium allegedly told Sarah that the only way to appease these restless spirits was to build a house for them, a house that would never stop expanding. As a result, Sarah Winchester embarked on an ambitious and seemingly irrational project to build a home that was constantly under construction. The house grew continuously, with no clear blueprint, as Sarah reportedly ordered new rooms, staircases, and hallways without regard for design or structure. The mansion expanded until it became a sprawling maze of over 160 rooms, including doors that opened to walls, staircases that led to ceilings, and windows positioned in the oddest places. The eccentric design choices and mysterious nature of the house gave rise to its reputation as a paranormal hotspot. Though Sarah Winchester passed away in 1922, the mystery of the house and its strange design have continued to intrigue both historians and those with an interest in the supernatural. The legend of Sarah's obsession with building the house as an appeasement to the spirits who tormented her has made the Winchester Mystery House one of the most famous haunted locations in the country. The haunting of Sarah Winchester. Sarah Winchester's story and her connection to the house are central to the haunting legends surrounding the Winchester Mystery House. It is said that Sarah believed the ghosts of those who had fallen victim to the Winchester rifle were constantly present in the house. Watching over her, she was told by the medium that she needed to keep building the house to prevent the spirits from becoming vengeful. As a result, she oversaw construction day and night, never allowing the work to stop. Many believe that Sarah's spirit still lingers in the house, roaming its winding hallways and secret rooms. Visitors and staff members have reported sightings of a ghostly woman in period clothing, believed to be Sarah, walking through the halls or standing in front of windows. One of the most commonly seen manifestations is that of Sarah's figure, particularly near the front door or in the gardens, where she is said to look out at the expansive grounds she once worked so tirelessly to create. Sarah's restless spirit is said to appear when the house's mysterious atmosphere becomes especially thick, often during the late hours of the evening. Some visitors claim to have heard the sound of footsteps following them through the halls, only to turn around and find the space empty. Others report feeling a sense of unease when near certain rooms or areas where Sarah is believed to have spent a lot of her time. The staircase to nowhere. One of the most famous features of the Winchester Mystery House is the staircase that leads to nowhere. This seemingly bizarre architectural choice has become one of the most iconic elements of the house. The staircase climbs several feet before abruptly stopping at a solid wall, with no access to any other room or floor. It is believed that the staircase was built as a means to confuse the spirits and keep them disoriented. Some say that the house was designed to be a spiritual labyrinth, preventing the restless spirits from finding their way in the afterlife. Numerous visitors to the house have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of unease or a sense of being watched when near the staircase. Paranormal investigators who have spent time in the house claim that the area near the staircase is one of the most active, with strange cold spots often appearing and unexplained sounds emanating from the walls. Some have even claimed to hear faint footsteps or whispers while standing near the stairs, as though the spirits of the house are trying to communicate. The staircase to nowhere is not just a physical curiosity, but a powerful symbol of the house's haunting. It reflects the irrationality and the obsession that Sarah Winchester had with appeasing the spirits, building something that served no practical purpose but was believed to have spiritual significance. The secret doors and hidden rooms. Another feature that sets the Winchester Mystery House apart from any other residence is the hidden doors and secret rooms that seem to appear at every turn. The mansion is filled with doors that open into blank walls, windows with no view, and hallways that led to nowhere. These mysterious features are believed to be a result of Sarah Winchester's obsession with keeping the spirits from finding her. The design of the house was deliberately made to confuse and disorient, with the belief that if the spirits were kept in the dark, they would be unable to find her or torment her. There are also rooms that are invisible to the public, with some visitors stumbling across secret doors hidden behind bookcases or false walls. These rooms are often described as being dark and cold, and some guests claim to have felt a sudden, overwhelming sensation of dread when entering them. Some paranormal investigators have reported spike in electromagnetic activity in certain rooms, particularly in the spaces where the design is most baffling, leading them to believe these rooms hold a special, supernatural significance. In addition to the physical secret spaces, there are reports of unseen presences lingering in the rooms. Staff members have described hearing doors open and close by themselves, and some have witnessed objects being moved inexplicably. In one reported incident, a staff member claimed to see a chair rocking by itself, even though no one had been sitting in it. Other staff members have heard the sound of footsteps following them through rooms where no one was present, adding to the house's reputation as a place of intense spiritual activity. The spirits of the house. The spirits that are believed to haunt the Winchester Mystery House are not just those of Sarah Winchester herself, but also of the many workers, visitors, and even the spirits of those killed by the Winchester rifle. One of the most commonly reported paranormal experiences is the sound of laughter, often heard in the hallways or from rooms that seem to be empty. Some claim the laughter belongs to the spirits of the workers who spent countless hours building the mansion, toiling away under the orders of a woman who believed she was trapped in a cycle of endless construction. there are also frequent reports of disembodied voices, which often whisper unintelligibly or call out in the dark. One of the most unsettling accounts comes from a group of visitors who reported hearing a woman's voice saying, "Come back, come back." The voice seemed to come from nowhere, echoing in the empty rooms, leaving the group feeling uneasy and unsettled. Guests have also reported seeing shadowy figures in the windows, particularly on the top floor, where Sarah spent much of her time. The figures are described as human-shaped but appear translucent, vanishing when approached. Some investigators believe these figures represent the spirits of people from the house's troubled past, spirits who still walk the halls, forever bound to the mansion. The Winchester Mystery House today. Today, the Winchester Mystery House stands as a popular tourist attraction and a haunted house tour that draws visitors from all over the world. While the mansion is open for day tours, it is during the evening tours that the supernatural presence truly seems to come alive. Paranormal investigators frequently visit the house, conducting investigations that have led to the capture of unusual phenomena, including orbs of light, strange sounds, and movement of objects. For those interested in the supernatural, the Winchester Mystery House offers an experience unlike any other, where the past is alive. And the spirits of those long gone continue to haunt the house, their restless souls forever tied to the mansion's labyrinthine halls. Whether you come for the history, the architecture, or the thrill of the unknown, the Winchester Mystery House is a place where mystery, tragedy, and the supernatural collide in a maze of secrets that may never be fully understood. If you ever find yourself in San Jose, make sure to take the time to explore this eerie mansion. But be warned, you may not leave the same way you entered, as the spirits that linger within are waiting, watching, whispering, and perhaps even guiding you through the maze of the unknown. In the quiet town of St. Augustine, Florida, one of the oldest cities in the United States, stands a historic building with a tragic past and an eerie reputation. The Castillo de San Marcos, a 17th-century fortress that has witnessed centuries of history, battles, and death. Now a national monument, the Castillo de San Marcos is not just a historic site, it's also a hotspot for paranormal activity. The fortress, built by the Spanish in the late 1600s to defend the city from attack, has been the site of numerous ghost stories, eerie occurrences, and unsettling sightings over the years. The Castillo de San Marcos was constructed during a turbulent time in the history of Florida, when the region was repeatedly invaded by the British, French, and even pirates. The fort's strategic location on the shores of the Matanzas River allowed the Spanish to defend St. Augustine from all sides. However, it wasn't only military battles that took place within these walls. The fort also held prisoners, including Native Americans, soldiers, and even pirates, some of whom met tragic and untimely deaths. It's believed that the spirits of these lost souls still haunt the fort today, adding an air of mystery and fear to the fortress's rich history. The ghost of the soldier. One of the most commonly reported hauntings at the Castillo de San Marcos is that of a soldier, often seen walking the grounds at night. This ghost is believed to be the spirit of a Spanish soldier who died during the fort's construction. Witnesses describe seeing the figure of a man in military uniform standing by one of the cannons, his face obscured by shadows. The apparition is often seen moving silently, standing in the same spot for hours, as if keeping watch over the fort. Some visitors report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread when near the soldier's apparition, as though they are being observed by unseen eyes. Others have heard the clank of armor or the sound of boots shuffling along the stone pathways, only to find the area completely empty when they investigate further. One particularly unsettling report came from a paranormal investigator who claimed to have heard a voice near the cannons that whispered, "Get out of here." The investigator turned around but found no one present. Many paranormal experts believe this soldier's spirit is trapped in the fort, unable to leave due to his duty in life. Whether he died in battle or perhaps during the construction of the fort, his ghost seems to eternally stand guard over the Castillo de San Marcos, his haunting presence remaining long after his death, the lost soul of the pirate. Another ghostly presence often reported at the Castillo de San Marcos is that of a pirate, believed to be a former prisoner of the fort. During the 1700s, many pirates were captured by the Spanish and imprisoned in the fort, where they were subjected to brutal conditions. Some of these pirates never made it out alive, and it is thought that the spirit of one such pirate still wanders the fortress. Visitors and staff have reported seeing a shadowy figure near the entrance, often described as a tall, burly man in pirate attire, complete with a ragged coat and hat. The apparition is sometimes seen leaning against the walls or pacing back and forth, seemingly agitated. The pirate spirit is often accompanied by an overwhelming stench of seawater and rotting wood, as if the ghost is forever trapped on a shipwreck. One particularly chilling encounter involved a visitor who, while touring the fort, walked into one of the dungeons and felt a sudden cold breeze sweep through the air. When they turned around, they saw a man standing in the corner, his face hidden in shadow, but his eyes glowing with anger. The visitor quickly turned to leave, but heard the sound of heavy chains dragging behind them, only to find no one was there. The pirate spirit is thought to be one of many souls left behind by those who were imprisoned and died within the walls of Castillo de San Marcos, perhaps seeking revenge or simply unable to leave the place where they met their end. The phantom sounds of the fort, along with apparitions. The Castillo de San Marcos is known for the unexplained sounds that seem to fill the air, particularly in the dead of night. The sounds are said to include the echoing clatter of cannons, the sound of footsteps in the hallways, and the faint whispers of people talking, even when no one else is around. These eerie noises are often heard in parts of the fort that are abandoned or closed off to the public, adding to the chilling atmosphere of the place. The most frequently reported sound is that of cannon fire, a loud boom that reverberates throughout the fort. However, upon investigation, there is no sign of any cannon being fired. In fact, the fort's cannons have not been used in battle for centuries, and yet the sounds persist. Some visitors have described the cannon fire as being incredibly loud and terrifying, causing their hearts to race and their bodies to freeze in fear, only for the noise to vanish as suddenly as it arrived. Another disturbing phenomenon is the sound of footsteps that seem to follow visitors through the fort. The footsteps are often described as being heavy and deliberate, as if someone is walking just behind them. In some cases, the footsteps seem to increase in pace, creating a sense of panic in those who hear them, but when they turn around, the area is empty. The shadowy figures in the hallways. One of the most unsettling experiences in the Castillo de San Marcos is the appearance of shadowy figures moving through the hallways, particularly during the late evening hours when the fort is less crowded. These figures are often described as dark silhouettes, their shapes indistinct but moving in a purposeful way. Staff members who work late into the evening have reported feeling the sensation of someone standing behind them, only to turn around and find no one there. Other employees have experienced the sensation of being followed as they walk through the long, dark corridors. Some report hearing low murmurs or the distinct sound of doors opening and closing by themselves. Several paranormal investigators who have visited the fort have also reported strange, inexplicable phenomena during their investigations. One team set up cameras in several rooms, only to later find that their equipment had been tampered with. In particular, one camera located near the fort's watchtower captured a figure appearing in the background, walking through the room and vanishing before it could be fully recorded. The Castillo de San Marcos today. The Castillo de San Marcos stands as a national monument and a popular tourist attraction, but its dark past continues to haunt its grounds. Visitors come to explore its historic architecture, its military history, and the stunning views of the Matanzas River, but many leave with more than they bargained for. Whether it's the sight of a shadowy figure in the corner of their eye, the eerie sound of footsteps following them, or the overwhelming sensation that they are being watched, the ghostly presence of the past still lingers in every stone of the fort. For paranormal enthusiasts and those with an interest in history, the Castillo de San Marcos offers a rare glimpse into a time of both triumph and tragedy, where spirits still walk the same paths once trod by soldiers, prisoners, and pirates. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the atmosphere at the Castillo de San Marcos is undeniably eerie, leaving visitors to wonder if the ghosts of the past are still trapped within the walls of this ancient fortress, waiting for someone to hear their stories. If you ever find yourself in St. Augustine, be sure to take a tour of the Castillo de San Marcos, but be prepared. The fort's history is rich, but it's also haunted by memories of a time long past. And the spirits that linger may just want to share their tales with you. In the bustling streets of New Orleans, Louisiana, amidst its vibrant culture and deep history, stands one of the most haunted locations in the city, the Lalaurie Mansion. Known for its beautiful architecture, its connection to New Orleans' aristocratic past, and its horrifying association with Madame Delphine Lalaurie, this mansion has become a focal point for both history buffs and those intrigued by the paranormal. The mansion's reputation as a haunted location is so widespread that it continues to attract tourists, paranormal investigators, and curious locals eager to learn about its tragic and disturbing history. The mansion was built in the early 19th century by Madame Delphine Lalaurie, a well-known socialite who moved to New Orleans with her third husband, Dr. Louis Lalaurie. The couple quickly became part of the city's elite, hosting lavish parties and gatherings in their mansion, which was considered one of the most luxurious in the area. But beneath the glamour and sophistication, a dark secret was hiding within the walls of the Lalaurie Mansion, a secret that would eventually come to light and cement its place in the annals of New Orleans' haunted history. The horrific history of the Lalaurie Mansion. Madame Delphine Lalaurie's reputation was built on her charm and social prowess. But her actions behind closed doors were far more sinister. Over the years, rumors began to circulate about her mistreatment of the enslaved people who worked in her home. While these rumors were initially dismissed by society due to her status and influence, in 1834, the truth finally came to light in a terrifying and gruesome manner. A fire broke out in the mansion, and as the flames spread, the firefighters broke into the house to rescue those trapped inside. What they discovered was nothing short of horrifying. They found a hidden torture chamber in the attic, where enslaved people were kept in appalling conditions. Some were found chained to the walls, while others were subjected to unspeakable mutilations and medical experiments. It was revealed that Madame Lalaurie had been cruelly torturing and killing her slaves for years, and many of them had died in the most brutal and horrifying ways. The fire revealed the depths of Madame Lalaurie's cruelty, and she quickly fled New Orleans, never to be seen again. The mansion, however, remained a symbol of her horrific actions, and the suffering that occurred within its walls left a permanent stain on its history. Since that time, the mansion has been linked to the restless spirits of those who died within its confines. The haunting of the Lalaurie Mansion. Following the exposure of Madame Lalaurie's actions, the mansion's reputation as a haunted location quickly took root. Witnesses have reported numerous strange and unsettling occurrences over the years, many of which seem to be linked to the spirits of the tortured souls who died there. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Lalaurie Mansion is the sound of screams. It is said that at night, if you stand near the mansion, you can sometimes hear the echoes of anguished voices, screams of pain and despair that seem to come from the depths of the building. Visitors have reported hearing these screams while walking by the mansion, even when the building is locked and the windows are closed. Some say the sounds are particularly intense during certain months of the year, as if the spirits are more active during specific times. In addition to the screams, many visitors and paranormal investigators have reported cold spots in and around the mansion. These cold areas seem to appear out of nowhere, with temperatures dropping dramatically in certain rooms or hallways. The temperature fluctuations are so sudden and extreme that they often leave people feeling unsettled, as though something is watching them or following them closely. The apparitions of Madame Lalaurie and her victims. Perhaps the most haunting phenomenon reported at the Lalaurie Mansion is the sighting of ghostly figures, both of Madame Delphine Lalaurie herself and the spirits of her victims. These apparitions are said to appear unexpectedly, often in the darkened windows of the mansion or as fleeting shadows moving through the rooms. Some visitors have reported seeing a woman in 19th century clothing standing in the windows, staring out at the street below. The figure is often described as having an aura of authority, and many believe it to be the ghost of Madame Lalaurie herself, forever watching over her mansion. In some cases, those who have seen the apparition claim that the woman's expression is cold and detached, as though she's observing the world from a distance without emotion. However, it is not just Madame Lalaurie's ghost that haunts the mansion. The spirits of her victims are said to roam the house as well, seeking revenge or simply trying to find peace. One of the most frequently reported sightings involves the ghosts of enslaved individuals, who are often seen near the attic or in the areas of the mansion where they were once confined. These spirits are described as shadowy figures, with some witnesses claiming they have seen them moving through the rooms or standing in the corners, staring at visitors with empty eyes. One particularly chilling report came from a group of paranormal investigators who visited the mansion in the 1980. They claimed to have seen a shadowy figure of a man walking toward them in the attic. The figure then disappeared into thin air before their very eyes. Another investigator reported feeling a cold hand brush against their arm while standing in one of the rooms, followed by a sudden wave of intense fear, the unsettling energy of the mansion. Another aspect of the haunting at the Lalaurie mansion is the oppressive, unsettling energy that permeates the building. People who have spent time in or around the mansion report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread or unease, as though they are being watched or followed by an unseen force. Some have described the atmosphere as heavy, almost suffocating, while others have likened it to the sensation of being trapped in a nightmare. Staff members working near the mansion have also reported feeling as though they are being drawn toward the building, unable to resist the pull of its dark energy. In some instances, employees have described hearing voices or footsteps following them as they work, only to turn around and find the building empty. The presence of something malevolent, something that refuses to leave, seems to hang in the air like a thick fog. The Lalaurie mansion today. Today, the Lalaurie mansion stands as a private residence and is not open to the public. However, it remains one of the most infamous haunted sites in New Orleans, with countless ghost tours passing by the house each day. Many of these tours recount the chilling history of the mansion, drawing visitors eager to hear the tale of Madame Lalaurie and her horrific deeds. Some brave souls even attempt to enter the mansion, hoping to witness firsthand the paranormal activity that is so frequently reported. Though the mansion is not actively open for tours or investigations, it remains an active part of New Orleans' haunted history, attracting people from around the world. For those seeking a glimpse of the supernatural or the chance to uncover more about the mansion's tragic past, the Lalaurie mansion promises an unforgettable experience, one where the ghosts of the past are never far away, their voices lingering in the walls, waiting to share their stories. The Lalaurie mansion serves as a stark reminder of how the past can haunt the present, how the suffering of the oppressed can echo through the centuries, and how the ghosts of those wronged in life can never truly find peace. If you ever find yourself in New Orleans, be sure to take a moment to visit the mansion, though be prepared. The spirits of Madame Lalaurie and her victims may still be watching, waiting, and perhaps even whispering in the night. As the sun sets over the city of New Orleans, casting long shadows across the streets, the Lalaurie mansion stands as a silent monument to the horrors of the past. The mansion's dark history, once hidden behind its ornate walls, has come to light, and its ghosts, those of the tortured souls and the callous mistress who bound them, continue to linger, trapped in a cycle of pain, revenge, and longing for peace. Madame Delphine Lalaurie may have fled from the consequences of her actions, but the spirits that haunt the mansion remain as a stark reminder of her cruelty. In the years following her departure, the mansion became a symbol of the town's tragic and bloody history, and its presence continues to shape the city's identity, as much a part of New Orleans as its vibrant culture, jazz, and bayou. The mansion's role in the city's haunted past is inextricable, and it stands as a chilling reminder that some places, steeped in misery and torment, will never truly let go of their ghosts. Over the years, many have attempted to uncover the mansion's secrets, seeking answers to questions that have remained unanswered for over a century. Paranormal investigations have drawn a constant stream of visitors hoping to capture evidence of the spirits that wander the halls. Some have succeeded in capturing ghostly apparitions and EVP recordings, while others leave with nothing more than a feeling of overwhelming dread, as though something unseen is watching them from the shadows. The Lalaurie Mansion is more than just a haunted house. It is a symbol of suffering, a memory of injustice, and a place where the echoes of the past refuse to fade. It serves as a reminder of the dark side of history, the tragedies that often remain hidden behind the facades of wealth and power, and the spirits that are left behind when the living move on. As New Orleans continues to evolve, the Lalaurie Mansion stands still, its walls filled with the memories of those who were once trapped within its confines. The house may no longer be a home to its original inhabitants, but it remains alive with the energy of its past. Visitors to the mansion are drawn not only by its eerie reputation, but also by the haunting reminder that history's ghosts are never truly gone. The mansion will always be a part of New Orleans and its story, a tale of tragedy, torment, and the supernatural will continue to haunt the city's streets. For as long as the mansion stands, it will serve as a living testament to the past, its secrets still waiting to be uncovered, and its ghosts forever lingering in the shadows.